Hello there! So we're in the new year and middle of winter here, and we just finished a project that we've been working on for about past year.
I think it's almost a year, like to the day or two, when we started working on this project a little while ago. So we're excited to bring it to you and show you the final result here.
Yeah, and what it is Alex is going to grab it over here, is we're calling it the Mark 8 Pump Action CO2 Canister Launcher.
Yep. So this thing, we just stated, started about a year ago as like a 6-barrel revolver style setup, which was far too complicated. Went through a few different revisions for things like a chisel to cut the end off these CO2 canisters and all that sort of stuff. But we eventually settled on a more traditional firing pin style mechanism for a pump action loading mechanism.
And the overall premise for how this works is that we made this to be basically a system that fires caseless ammunition. Mm-hmm. These little CO2 bottles have quite a bit of compressed gas in them. And so what this does is it punctures the end of the bottle, thus releasing all of the gas and launching this like a little rocket.
Yeah, so to clarify, it uses them as the propellant and the projectile. So we're not just puncturing them using the compressed gas for something, and we're not just firing the canister using a propellant like a shotgun shell or something. Those are both. So there is no casing to eject. It's more of a rocket launcher than a shotgun.
Yep. Okay. So this is just a spot for holding some spare ammunition. This is not a double barrel mechanism. Do you want to let them know what's going on there?
So this top tube here is the loading tube, just like you would load a regular shotgun. So it has a little spring-loaded follower here. You load your canisters in this direction, holds 4 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. To actuate it, we'll move this just so the action works here, is that once all the canisters are loaded, you're going to cycle the pump. Let you do that. Cycle the pump. It'll raise the block, the breech, that will load the canister in. The pump is then slid forward again. The follower comes back, holds the shells in place, and then at the same time, this pump pulls back a plunger with a firing pin on the end. And so this is all a spring-loaded mechanism, and it all happens when just actuating the front pump here.
Mm-hmm. Also included with the magazine tube, on top of the breech block, is a little gate that keeps the next shell from popping out. Mm-hmm. And this is what's known as a falling block breech. I want to give a shout out real quick to Ian over at ForgottenWeapons.com, a really cool channel. I watch his videos almost every day and learned a lot about antique firearms from watching him. Mm-hmm. And some of what I learned from watching his channel is what we incorporated into this design.
Yep. And so once the canister is loaded in the breech, as we said, the firing pin is cycled and held back, spring-loaded. There's one more piece here, and it's this locking mechanism. So with initial tests, we found that the puncturing action pushed the canister forward instead of actually punching a hole in the back of it. And so to solve that, we have this piece here, which when you depressed, pinches the canister against the side of the breech, just enough to hold it where the firing pin can puncture the canister, but doesn't and it pushes it forward, but it's enough to give it a hole rather than just pushing it forward to begin with, or pushing it forward, not doing anything else.
Yep. The reason for the ridiculously long barrel on this is we had to give the canister more time to expel all of its gas before it leaves the end of the barrel. Otherwise, there's still thrust going on and it goes off in crazy directions.
Yep. So, a year in the making, lots of love, and we're excited to show it to you guys.
For our ammunition, we're using Crossman CO2 cartridges, a box of 40, and these are only $18 a box. Alright, so we've set up a couple of terracotta pots, and we're going to obliterate them. There's probably going to be a lot of comments about this being something that's really steampunk, and while we aren't knocking steampunk, we consider ourselves to be hodgepunks. This is a hodgepunk gun. And that's our own made-up word, because we kind of do a little bit of everything. Alright, so you pull down the follower, and load in 4 shells, lift the gate, and it's ready.
Let's see. No, they're still there. So satisfying. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
8, 2, 1.
That was close.
You're so badass. Say hello to my little friend. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. Oh! Oh, it was so close! Okay, we'll get it. Ready? Oh! Hit the stool! Oh,
Yeah. After testing it thoroughly, our conclusion is that some parts of this work really well, and some parts of it don't work so well at all. So we're gonna have to do some more work.
Yes, definitely expect a Model 2. Not necessarily a Mark 2, this is Mark 8, but a slightly different model, but we'll definitely be making another one of these.
Yeah, we're thinking next one we're gonna do is gonna be a side-by-side brake action.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things that we figured out was that hitting the cartridge from behind to pierce a hole in it just doesn't make the hole big enough. As a result, it's still off-gassing when it leaves the barrel and makes it so that it's pretty hard to even hit the broadside of the barn with it.
Yeah. In addition to that, it also makes the system more complicated. It adds a whole bunch of additional material on the back of the rifle. We have to do things where we pinch the cartridge in place. It just makes things far more complicated than it really needs to be.
So from this we learned that what we're going to do next time is have a hammer that actually hits the cartridge on the nose to drive it against a spike to make a much larger hole and hopefully improve the accuracy. On the pro side of this though, the pump action works really well.
It was one of the most satisfying things to use on this entire mechanism. It was just awesome in that regard.
Yeah, especially considering kind of how cobbled together this is.
Yeah.
That was really nice. The magazine tube, we might, still use something like that in the future.
Yep. And in all honesty, we used it to failure. Some of our cobbled together parts here finally gave up the ghost. But we got probably 50 good rounds through this thing before it started to give us any issues. So, all things considered, I consider it a success.
Yeah, and still a hell of a lot of fun to use.
Oh, it was awesome. And we do have to give a little bit of a confession here. Those shots where we did break the terracotta, we were about 3 feet away. We wanted to see how hard it would hit and if it would break stuff, and it did. But we were pretty darn close. So
yeah. So that's the full confession there.
Yeah.
But with a little bit of work, we can turn this into something that is semi-accurate and still a lot of fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So stay tuned for that, folks, and thank you for watching.
Yep. As always, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Danger First.
Yep.
And we'll have something else in the future.
Yeah.
When mechanical failure strikes, it's nice and heavy.